Hey Archers, I've seen a lot of questions recently about what the best weapons used in Archero are, especially why they're the best weapons. And most of the tier lists that you see online don't really give any of that information justice, so I'm just going to make a video to let you guys know exactly why I'm going to be ranking these weapons this way. But before I get into the video, if you guys are new here, I'm Happy Grandpappy, and I create guides on Archero and Zuba, so you can make awesome decisions to optimize everything. Before I even get into tier list, this is 100% my experience, and if you enjoy a particular weapon, definitely keep playing with it. Because, first and foremost, it's a game and you're supposed to have fun. So if you have any specific questions or comparisons, like a rare bow versus a epic saw blade, just let me know in the comments below and I'll be able to answer you guys. Alright, with that said, let's get into the video. The first weapon that we have right now is a brave bow. This weapon's actually very consistent throughout the entire game, and you won't really have any problems. It actually has a very small knockback effect whenever the projectile hits, so that's a little bonus. Since the attack speed of this weapon is actually pretty moderate, you should be able to stutter step very easily. And the epic ability for the brave bow is an additional 50% crit damage, which is... it's alright, honestly. Like, it's gonna help you out throughout the game, obviously, but it's nothing special. So since it's a very consistent weapon throughout the game, I'm gonna give it A tier, since you honestly can't go wrong with having a brave bow on your side. Alright, so the next weapon we're gonna go over is the Death Scythe. So the Death Scythe is actually a weapon that I used pretty much most of the game until I ended up getting my Brightspear, but we'll get into that later on. So the Death Scythe actually has an additional damage boost, so it actually does more damage than something like a Brave Bow, but the attack speed is a little bit slower. And because of this lower attack speed, stutter stepping is almost a requirement in order for you to keep your DPS high. In addition to that, the Death Scythe actually has the biggest knockback effect in the entire game, so it's actually very useful whenever you're going to have any enemies like rushing to you. I actually really love the epic ability of this weapon because it has a chance to instantly kill any enemy that's under 30% HP. This is super useful for chapters where the enemies would have a little bit higher health, so like chapter 12 or playing a game mode like Up Close Dangers. So because of its epic ability and its chance to do a lot of damage throughout your game, I'm gonna give it an A tier. So the next weapon we're gonna go over is the saw blade, which is... I mean, it's a weapon in the game, so like if you like using it, obviously just keep doing it. Just know that you're going to be selling yourself a little bit short. So the way that this weapon works is that its attack speed is a little bit higher and its base damage is a little bit lower. So stacking attack speed on this weapon actually makes it a lot of fun to use. Even though it's mad fun to play sometimes, the attack speed gets a little bit overwhelming, so you're not going to be able to stutter step at all when using this weapon. So let's talk about its epic ability. The epic ability of this weapon is actually so sad and definitely has to be reworked. The only thing that it does is increase your attack speed whenever you enter the room for 3 seconds. That's it. Because of this, it literally only helps you for 3 seconds in non-wave chapters. Like in a wave chapter, you have to move up half the screen, which is going to take more than 3 seconds. So even if you are in a non-wave chapter and an enemy rushes you in the beginning and you dodge that enemy,
and it's gone. Poof.
Your epic ability is gone. 3 seconds, that's it. So because of all this stuff, I'm going to put it to C tier. It is a weapon in the game that helps you. Yeah. So the next weapon we're going to go over is a tornado. It's actually a pretty good weapon. Especially in the lower chapters, it just decimates all your enemies. The way this weapon works is that you actually throw out a projectile that pierces through your enemies and comes back to you. And because of this, you actually have some chance to miss out on some damage if the returning projectile doesn't hit your enemy. Stutter stepping is actually pretty good with this weapon too, so because of that, as well as the epic ability for it to do more damage whenever it's returning, you can actually really burst down some opponents without having to rely on things like piercing arrow or ricochet. Yeah, because of this, I'll put it to B tier because it's definitely not as good as the brave bow or the Death Scythe, but it's significantly better than the saw blade. Alright, so this is my favorite weapon in the game, the Brightspear. This weapon is just so consistent throughout the entire game. The speed, the damage, stutter stepping, everything just works perfectly. Honestly, the epic ability is just something I just never think about because the weapon just performs so well. Yeah, this weapon is pretty much like the brave bow, but literally everything else is better. So because of this, I'm just going to put it into S tier. So next up is the most unique weapon in the game, the Stalker Staff. The way that this weapon works is that every single shot that you fire actually homes into the enemy, so you rarely ever miss any shots. Just like the Brightspear, the epic ability is something I just don't even think about because it literally just works. Because every single projectile that comes out of the weapon homes into the enemy, using abilities such as diagonal arrows or side arrows actually significantly increases the DPS of this weapon. Because you're going to be picking abilities like diagonal arrows or side arrows, I would say do not ever pick front arrow for this weapon, because front arrow is actually going to decrease the damage of all the arrows that are coming from your weapon. This includes diagonal arrows. Star stepping actually takes a little bit more time to get used to, but it's actually not too bad. There's a small delay from when the projectile shows up from your weapon and when it actually moves forward to hit the enemy. This weapon is a little bit more RNG dependent because you almost need diagonal arrows for it to work properly, because having diagonal arrows actually almost triples its DPS. And it's almost a requirement for you to use this weapon on Chapter 14 because of the high DPS that you can output and because of the high health that the bosses have. Because Stalker Staff has such high damage potential, it automatically gets into S tier. But it's very RNG dependent because it almost needs diagonal arrows to work properly. Alright, the final weapon that we have is a Gale Force. So without a doubt, I would say this is the best weapon in the game. The amount of damage that you just get out of the epic ability is just insane. But this weapon actually has a pretty high learning curve that I haven't even learned yet because I've been using my ALE spear. But it's pretty easy to mess up your shots, especially when star stepping, so definitely take your time to learn the weapon. For example, a charge shot for this weapon is extremely fast, so you actually have to turn to your enemy before you fire. And because this charge shot, star stepping just feels inconsistent because that shot is just very fast and everything else is really slow. So I'm not sure if this is a bug or not, but the piercing shot is something that you're going to have to prioritize on this weapon because the charge shot that comes out from the epic ability actually calculates the damage reduction a little bit incorrectly. So because the damage reduction is calculated incorrectly, getting this skill is actually going to minimize that damage reduction and you're going to be doing a lot more damage with that charge shot. Additionally, unlike all the other weapons in the game, getting piercing shot and ricochet is actually going to complement your weapon. So you're just going to be doing tons of damage the entire time. Because of this, I'm just going to put it into SS tier as being the best weapon in the game. Alright guys, so if you made this far into the video and you like this type of content, definitely leave a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications because it's definitely going to be helping my channel. So I hope you stay tuned for more Archero content. Alright then, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.